welcome and thank you for joining us for our Using Data to Grow Revenue VIP Roundtable discussion. This VIP Roundtable is one of a three-part series presented by FNAME. On behalf of the entire FPA, Intersect Media, and FNAME, say that 3 times, let me say how excited we are to be able to provide our FPA members this revenue-generating series, hearing directly from some of our vendors and sales experts in the field. But before we begin, I have a few short announcements. First, I would like to recognize our sponsors, Blue Toad, Preferred Marketing Solutions, and our very own Intersect Media. Please mark your calendars for our next VIP Roundtable, which is being held on August 27th. This will be our second in the series, and it's on helping our business partners tell their unique story with Mike Senarani. We'll be holding a morning session for our weeklies and a daily session sometime in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. Small reminder, this session is being recorded, and if you have any questions, please feel free to use our chat feature, and Patrick will get to as many as he can at the end of each presenter. And now, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Gannett's General Sales Manager at the Palm Beach Post and FNAME's President, Patrick Fuentes. He'll be our moderator this afternoon, and we'll be introducing our panelists. So without further ado, Patrick, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Jim, and thank you all for being here today on this part 1 of a 3-part series presented by FNAME. We are extremely excited to share a lot of useful information with all of you on how to use data to drive revenue. Bringing you that information today are 3 expert panelists. Those panelists are Mark Notaro, Director of Premium Accounts at the Sun Sentinel, Tracy Hemrick, Senior Account Executive at the Naples Daily News and Local IQ, and Sammy Papert, President of Wormhole, speaking on behalf of Pulse Research. Now, we will have a short Q&A after each presenter goes today, but we encourage you, like Jim said, to go ahead and use the chat function to capture any questions you might have along the way. So, we will get started with Mark Notaro. Mark has over 15 years in the media industry and has won several awards for sales achievements, sales training, and sales leadership. He is the consummate team player, a dynamic presenter, and strong closer with a solid business acumen. Creating concept to reality digital solutions that drive revenue growth is his forte. He is a native of Buffalo and diehard Bills and Sabres fan. He earned his bachelor's in business administration from SUNY of Buffalo in 2004. Mark, let's get started. Take us away, please.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and share my screen now for everyone. There we go. So hello, everyone. My name is Mark Notaro. I'm the Director of Premium Accounts at the Sun Sentinel Media Group. And I want to thank you all for affording me the opportunity today to share my success story. Today, I'm going to discuss a new business win that I was able to secure using marketing insights, data, and research tools that we have available at the Sun Sentinel. I'm also going to share the presentation, the key data points that were used, and I'm also going to walk you through how we push the customer through the entire sales process from prospecting to close. And then, as mentioned before, I'll leave it open for a few questions at the end. So the business that we're going to discuss today is Massey Construction Group, headquartered actually in Naples, Florida. I've been prospecting in the home services category now for the past few months. Partially because, they were considered an essential business during the pandemic, and also because we were heading into a hurricane season, as you all know, is supposed to be really, really active. So this process started when I received a piece of their direct mail in my mailbox. As I go through and I search through, I found a pretty unique piece, especially with a Naples phone number on there, so I added it to my hit list. I compiled my list, went through and started to do a little bit of research. I wanted to see exactly what their site was. I wanted to take a look at their digital footprint. I wanted to see what they were doing against their competitors. So I looped in my digital strategist and we started doing a deep dive. And believe it or not, it came up pretty empty. They really had a decent site. They didn't have any AdWords. Their website didn't have any pixels or any GA tag into it. They didn't have a strong social presence, and there really was no new content. Really, the only thing that I saw was the website that mirrored the piece of direct mail. So I used one of the tools that we have at our disposal, Media Radar. And I went into it to see if I could find something else. And what I found is that they were actually advertising in other publications in our market. which gave me a clue that this is a perfect prime prospect. I was able to see exactly the frequency they were running, the creative that they were using, how much on average they were spending. More importantly, I was able to see that they were not only advertising on the home of the west coast of Florida, but how that had dipped dramatically, and now they were starting to have a larger presence on the east coast of Florida. So, you know, like I said, I blueprinted the account, went in, I stalked the owner online, who I found his name was Mark, and decided to give him a call. And luckily was able to reach the owner of the company directly and spoke to him in a few minutes. You know, I said that, you know, I crafted my VBR based upon the research that I found. Talked to him a little bit about what I saw in the marketplace. I saw, you know, spoke briefly about some of the gaps I found in my research and some of the ideas I thought that would be able to complement what he's currently doing and also supplement some of the gaps. And he said, yeah, sure, I'll give you a call back and we'll discuss later. Let's be honest, this was Friday afternoon. So the likelihood of him actually calling me back on a Friday night to have this conversation was slim to none. But I guess we're in a new normal, because he actually did. He called me back later that evening and we had a really good conversation. And this is what I heard. What he told me was his main marketing objective was that he wanted to target older homes in Broward and Palm Beach County with tiled roofs and possible damage from Hurricane Irma. This was really the basis of what all his marketing was. All of his ads and his direct mail were very text heavy. He was going in and it was more of an educational process of not only saying that there's still funds available, but this deadline closes on September 9th of this year, so to take advantage of it. The target audience that he was really looking to hit were homeowners with an average home value of 500,000 plus and that were built at least 10 years ago. There's a household income of 150,000 in Broward and Palm Beach counties. He wanted to create awareness. He knew that he was trying to buy into a new market, so he wanted to create a general awareness here in both Palm Beach and Broward County. And then he also wanted these ads to, you know, generate calls and leads. And his unique value proposition is pretty intriguing. So he's able to go in and submit the insurance claims directly to the providers without having to bring in an appraiser. Now this saves the homeowners anywhere from 10 to 20% on top of the bill. And he's able to, you know, shorten the entire process and save the homeowners money. So this is something that he really wanted to highlight in everything that he was going to be advertising. So he gave me all this great information. We had a very long in-depth conversation. Now I had some homework to do. So this is where I was able to loop in and connect with my marketing department locally and said, how can we take all this information and convey it to him in layman's terms so that he can wrap his head around? More importantly, that we could be a trusted partner for this. And the next two slides were imperative that helped us ultimately win the business. The first one here is a map. And what this does is it shows the consumer home improvement expenditures in a given year. So as you can see here to the left, it's the map of the Tri-County area broken down by zip code that has it's color coded, that kind of has the general layout of what you can expect to be spent by zip code. So he was able to cross-reference this information with what he already knew about the market and pick the hot spots of where he could potentially want to advertise to. So some of the biggest takeaways from this were, you know, the large pockets of Palm Beach County were estimated to have between $24.9 and $41.7 million in home improvement expenditures in 2018, highlighted by the cities of Boca Raton, Delray Beach, Royal Palm, Wellington, and Jupiter. Now, much of Broward County was estimated to have between $11.4 and $24.9 million in home expenditures in 2018. So between the two counties, you realize there was a huge opportunity right in the backyard to be able to go in and reach a qualified audience. Now, the second map here is very similar to the first, except this is breaking down the average year homes were built. So in our conversation, he had said that he wants to really target closer to the coastline as those homes tend to be a little bit older and also more susceptible to the damage. So this map really, you know, played into exactly what he had said and, you know, confirmed that we were both on the same page. And some of the major takeaways, you know, from this slide, many of the homes in Eastern Broward were built between 1973 and 1980, while homes in Palm Beach County are newer than Broward and on average were built prior to 1993. So the key takeaways from both of these slides were the vast majority of homes were built prior to 1993. And knowing this and the estimated home improvement expenditures, we can strategically target areas where the potential for new business is the greatest. And this really kept the conversation flowing. It wasn't so much if I want to take an order, I want to place an ad for you. It's like we could do a heck of a lot for you, and it could be very, very targeted to the audience that you ultimately want to target. So I wanted to go in and say, you know, why choose us? Is we already told you that we have the data, we have the research tools to be able to go in and tell you where your audience lies, but why should you put your faith in us? And first is quality, you know, trusted award-winning content, delivering quality engaged audiences. Our reach, we're the largest circulated newspaper and a leading local news site in South Florida. Our resources, you have the power of Tribune Publishing's national media scale, providing additional resources, reach, and expertise. Our team of experts on a local level, working together to identify these opportunities and build strategic solutions based on advertisers' objectives. And finally, the most important is the results. Data-driven approach to insights, media solutions, analytics, and optimization, maximizing sales for our advertisers. This next slide, I wanted to show that, you know, we have other partners in the home services solutions that are currently running with us, and we are able to provide great results. This was impactful because in our conversation, he had mentioned that he partners with a lot of hurricane window and door companies when he's on jobs. So I wanted to show him in our here in our marketplace that we have quite a number of advertisers and partners that trust us to help grow their business, especially during this time of the year. And he actually works with a handful of this list. So it really was good for him to see it, and had really no idea that we handled a lot of these larger clients, and that everything that they were currently running was through our team at the Sun Sentinel. Then I wanted to jump in and tell, you know, a little bit about us. You know, I wanted to talk more about the Sun Sentinel as a trusted news source. You know, we offer a highly engaged quality audience, guaranteed reach and impressions that allow building strong, lasting consumer relationships, and unique co-branding opportunities that reinforce credibility and brand perception. Again, perception is reality. He thought that we were really geared towards Broward County. He wasn't quite sure what our circulation was. He had a lot of questions about what is sunsentinel.com, the type of content that we produce. So I was able to show him some live examples, some coverage that we're doing around coronavirus, breaking news and upfront opportunities that we had. And more importantly, speak more to our overall weekly readership as a whole, which is just under 1 million readers weekly in print and online. This was something that he didn't anticipate that large of a reach. And then to break it down even further, as stated before, some of the biggest criteria that he wanted to meet was to make sure that there were homeowners involved that we're going to target. You know, he wanted more of an affluent audience that would read through the entire advertisement, that truly understood the process and what it would mean to go in and file a claim. He wanted to make sure that, and he mentioned this a few times, that traditionally newspaper readers are a little bit more affluent and college educated. So this just reinforced throughout the way exactly what he told me, so I can gain his agreement throughout the entire process. Then we went into, you know, to his goals, to flip it back to him. Is the first one was just to drive awareness. He wanted to ensure the audience is aware of Massey Construction Group's South Florida presence and long history of being an established local contractor. Then he also wanted to increase calls and website referrals. He wanted to reach the South Florida audience and educate them on Hurricane Irma insurance claims, pending deadlines, and filing procedures. So this is, again, twofold. It was an educational piece, but it was also to drive awareness, as he knew that he was buying into a new market. And as you can see, the solutions funnel to the right. How are we going to accomplish that? Well, print is a great awareness piece. Digital display and retargeting, you know, creates inspiration. And then email marketing and intent was something that he wanted to do because there's redeemable qualities within that piece. The next two slides are important, especially when you're setting the proper expectations. We spent quite a bit of time on this. It is tracking and reporting, you know. Based on your core objectives, we'll identify and manage your campaign to optimize towards your KPIs. And that was important. He was burned several times before, spending an awful lot of money in the past on AdWords, trying to go in and pay for leads, which made his customer acquisition costs astronomical and cost per lead, you know, extremely high. So I wanted to make sure that we were kind of contouring everything towards his KPIs and what he wanted to be important, as opposed to national benchmarks of saying this is successful. So he was really happy to hear that. And it kind of, again, I wanted to gain credibility with it. So these are the steps that we take, you know, data collection, analyze and evaluate, and then continue to optimize results throughout the campaign. Again, we want to ensure that we're meeting his KPIs and his goals, not just our own. This right here really just sets the proper expectations and really sets the roadmap to success from signing of the agreement all the way through the first 90 days. This enables us to hold each other accountable. If the client truly ends a certain time and has us up against a hard deadline, and we set the proper expectations of materials that we're going to need from him in return, then we're going to deliver on our end. So from pre-launch all the way through the first 90 days, this really eliminates any questions that you would have along the way. As far as this isn't working, I want to change it. I want to make sure that I'm not getting as many quality leads. I want to add a new product or service into the mix. This really kind of sets the bar, and this is where our internal team of strategists and account managers come in to help manage these expectations. But more importantly, you're always on the same page with your client. So you're never having to go back and retroactively put out fires. You're focused on the upsell opportunity and continue to grow this partnership. Now for the fun part, the recommendations. So based upon what he told me, what he was ultimately looking for, recommendation 1 was for the time period of about 4.5 months for $117,000. This included Sun Sentinel print, a full page every Sunday and a half page every Wednesday with a minimum of 18 weeks. A Spadia and homepage takeover combo once per month during that same time frame. 500,000 targeted impressions on sunsentinel.com. 200,000 targeted emails to the same geo and demos that we discussed with the reblast, and extended reach and retargeting programmatically. Second recommendation kept the exact same Sun Sentinel print schedule with a minimum of 18 weeks, but we scaled back on the Spadia and homepage takeover down to just twice, kept the 500,000 targeted impressions and the email campaign. Ultimately, the client chose to go with recommendation number 3, keeping the full print schedule, the minimum of 18 weeks. And this was a good starting point. He wanted to test the waters with us. We got an agreement in place to ensure that he was going to, maximize his exposure during that time frame. And that's where we started as our new business win. Now, I'm going to walk you through some additional slides, which also helped us with upsell opportunities and put us in a position today to help grow our partnership with this client. My partner in crime, Sonny Morris, who helped me put, as aforementioned, when we did the digital deep dive. So this is a very high-level capabilities deck that we have at Sun Sentinel. It's an idea that says, yes, we are, the news and entertainment source of South Florida. Yes, we're going to handle all of your print needs. But did you know that we have all these other digital products? We have a branded content, our studio. We have extended reach programs. We have an entire live events division, our multicultural publications, digital services, and even conversion marketing. Planting these seeds early on and having this conversation, I knew that he was going to gravitate more towards a print-heavy campaign, but I wanted to open this up so that when he saw our data capabilities, that we would have the opportunity to have these conversations later on. And luckily, it worked out for us. This slide was also key. So leveraging the power of print and our circulation. So again, perception being reality. They look at, the Sun Sentinel, and a lot of times we're pigeonholed into, well, you're Broward County, you're Fort Lauderdale. Little do they know is that we have a very high circulation in South Palm Beach County, which is exactly the target area that he wanted to go after. So he knew that he was already getting 1/3 of the South Florida DMA. So showing this map just really reinforced that he can get not only another 1/3, but also, really complement what he's currently doing and double down on the homes that he's trying to go after. The e-edition is something that we spoke about as in the new normal. Consumers are consuming their news many different ways. Now it can be dropped right into their, right to their email every single morning, and they could thumb through it and keep it for, later in the day. This is something that, was a teaser. He said that this is something I'm going to include at no charge. By the way, we have our own subscriptions for it, but also it also coincides with our circulation numbers as well. So it was something he was excited about. We even had conversations around potential sponsorships around the e-edition. So again, it's another revenue source, and it's something else that he just didn't know. This slide, for email marketing, again, in today's new normal, there's no better way than to reach out. I'm sure you all get 100 emails a day now from every company in the world that's randomly buying lists. But I want to talk to more about a targeted approach, something that he can go to homeowners and have that overlay on top of his direct mail pieces that he was already sending out. And then being able to then go in and capture that data, should he want to go that route. programmatic, the extended reach, how are we going to go in and target these individuals? Well, there's behavioral, contextual, retargeting, and geofencing. It was something that he shied away from, but he still, said that it was something that was very, very important, especially in phase 2 of this campaign once we get on the other side of September. And then custom sponsorships. If we hadn't planted these seeds early on and gone through and blueprinted the account the right way, we wouldn't have had an opportunity to have this type of conversation. So it's going in and having high-level sponsorships and being placed around trusted content. And especially with him, with Hurricane Irma insurance claims going into our hurricane season, the weather sponsorship really resonated with him. He wanted to have conversations if he could be essentially the authority on the weather and breaking news of South Florida, given the fact that we are going into a pretty active hurricane season. And it's something that we're still in contact about. That, and also taking over his direct mail pieces for the East Coast of Florida. We have multiple proposals out to him. He's going over it with his team, and they really rely upon us as the experts here in this marketplace, not only because of our reach and really who we are and our capabilities, but more importantly is, we have his best needs at heart and we have the data to be able to back it up. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Mark. Much appreciated and great job. Any questions for Mark on his presentation? I don't see any questions. Well, it looks like we have one in the chat. What was a new customer worth to the client, Mark?
He said it can go anywhere, especially with the Hurricane Irma insurance claims. It could be anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. Generally, when you're making a claim for that type of damage, it would either be a complete re-roof or there would be some additional construction that would go into the remodeling.
Excellent, excellent. Any other questions for Mark? Mark, I'll chime in here and I'll ask, was there any talk about what might have been more important from pre-storm season to post-storm damage season, if you will, right? So there's preparing and then there's the damage and repair, right? So
yes,
was he leaning one or the other?
Yeah. So it's important that he wanted to, he feels like that over the course of the past 2 years, he's really saturated the Gulf Coast, and he knew that Palm Beach County, Broward, and Dade were going to be areas of opportunity for him. So he not only placed crews out here, but he also hired a ton of subcontractors. So he was looking at it twofold. He wanted to go after the insurance claims because he had that area of expertise, but he also wanted to go in and create branding and awareness to go after new jobs. So even if it wasn't storm related, he still is at heart a construction company, not just a roofing company. So he can go on and put additions on the homes. He can go in and build out. So he was really looking to use this season to really promote himself and his name to get new jobs, both pre-season and after hurricane season.
Excellent, excellent. We have one more in chat here. Have you approached his competitors to Massey, and with what success?
Yes, actually I have. So going in and targeting other contractors that also had the ability to go in and submit claims, which is very, very important in this process because there is a hard stop of September 9th this year. And I've had success. So I wrote actually another new business of a competitor in Palm Beach County. And I've had very strong conversations with others, none that actually had closed regarding the Hurricane Irma insurance. But what it did is it opened up opportunities to continue to have conversations based upon sounding like a subject matter expert and knowing that we work with other roofers, in the space and being able to speak their language.
Great, outstanding. All right, thank you very much, Mark. Great job. We appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move over and introduce once again Tracy Hemrick. Tracy has been with the Naples Daily for over 5 years. She has been teaching as a business adjunct professor for 5 years as well. And prior to getting into the advertising and marketing industry, Tracy was Vice President of Business Development Officer for a private and commercial bank. Today, she will be sharing how she uses insights in the consumer experience in times of turmoil. Sound familiar? She links these both with data as well as to different business categories to figure out how they can find opportunities in uncharted territories. Tracy, take it away.
Thanks, Patrick, and thanks everyone. I'm excited to be part of this exciting topic today. When the pandemic really started to take root in our country and also in South Florida, I had a lot of people stop, and if we were talking about what I did professionally, they'd say, that's a tough business right now, right? And I said, you know, I started thinking about, in any time of turmoil, there still remains great opportunity. And as Patrick indicated, in 2008, I was in banking and the market had just really crashed in South Florida. And I remember talking to a friend who was an accountant that said, you know, in these times, it will always work for somebody. And so as I was hearing about the pandemic, I started to really think about the businesses that could take this time and turn that towards opportunity and shift market share. And some of those companies I really kind of became aware of, or industries, through my own consumer behaviors. And then I would see that reaffirmed, right, by social media platforms and funny memes. If anything has come out of 2020, although it's been a really tough year, there have been some fantastic memes. I think we can all agree that have really been produced. So you have to laugh or you'll cry, right? And so I started thinking about it, and I know for me, by week 3, I'm a proud mother of 2 4-year-old toddlers, twins. The daycares were closed, and I'm trying to work from home, and it started to get really real fast. And I started, when they'd finally go to sleep at night, really looking at real estate. Like the walls were starting to close in on me. And so I identified, I bet you I'm not alone in this. I bet there are a lot of parents out there, or spouses that are both are working from home, that are thinking, we need a home office. Maybe we need 2. We need a rec room. We need a pool. We need to do something, because as the news stories kept coming, what we did learn is it wasn't going to be over by Memorial Day as we had all hoped, right? And so now, as Google is announcing, hey, listen, we're working from home till 2021, people really started to think, okay, what does this look like long term? And so one of the industries that I'm going to focus on today, and there are multiple industries that I would say have a real opportunity in this market to be a winner, especially if they don't get scared. And being a past banker, I'm going to use a little quote that came from Warren Buffett in 2008 that spoke to my heart. In times when people get greedy, get scared. When people get scared, get greedy. So the same is that when all of a sudden your industry has an influx of traffic that you were unprepared for, this isn't the time to harvest your nuts away till winter, right? Like a scared squirrel. This is a time to get out in front of that and turn this into a time to steal market share. And so that is true for several different industries. Again, I'm going to focus on home builders. But if we look at the finance industry, if we look at the fitness equipment industry, these are just a few. Home furnishing, home improvement, as Mark spoke about. These are definite areas that, while the rest of the country is like the travel industry was heavily hit, but there are still insights to that travel industry that shows that consumer journey has drastically changed, right? People are still traveling, but now maybe they're staying closer to home. And so, and the decision in the past to plan a vacation must have had a lot longer buying cycle, to now it's more spontaneous, right? We found out our schools are shut down a couple weeks longer or indefinitely, that we're going to be doing virtual. I can't be in this house any longer. What kind of travel am I looking towards? This is now all of a sudden renting a condo, or areas where you can control a safe environment in terms of, you know, trying to navigate these pandemic times. So really, these are the moments that we take our own consumer experience, and as professionals, start to research what the data tells us around that, because we are all in this together. When the call began, we were talking a little bit about natural disasters, which sounds really morbid, but it wasn't. And one of the things we take away from this is in a pandemic environment, we're all in this together. I mean, it's not specific to a Florida hurricane or a California wildfire. Like, this is something that all businesses are having to reevaluate how they go to market and how they're going to push through and steal that market share. So based on that, I'm going to share my screen. One of the things we have found is that being a news provider has really given us a lot of opportunity, because again, if we kind of reflect on our own consumer behaviors, I know for myself, I start to listen to the news, and then I start to feel a little hysteria, especially when the pandemic first was being discussed and there were so many unknowns, that I would hear friends, peers, clients say, I kind of have to limit myself to how much I'm dialing in to the news right now, because I have to continue, and I can't have this Chicken Little mentality, but I also very much want to be informed. Well, that provided a really beautiful environment for my organization, because when you're going to a trusted news source online, you get to be that narrator, right? Like, I don't have a tone or a potential biasness or any sensationalism. I just get to read the facts and then take it how I see. And that also, you know, in an election year doesn't hurt us either, right? And so when I was reaching out to this home builder, it was important for me to articulate that we found that people were very much dialing in to their local news source to stay abreast of, you know, what was going on in their community, you know, whether their favorite restaurants were surviving or their businesses that they were connected to, how they were doing, how we were handling telling those stories. So in Florida, we have a lot of seasonal residents. So in the summer months, they very much are still dialed into what is happening here, even if they're up north, digitally. So we talked a little bit about that, and this home builder shared with me, who is a national builder, that they were finding that to be very consistent with where they were getting the greatest engagement for leads. That another client I was talking to that was a fitness equipment advertiser said that they thought that with all the consumption of what was out there with regards to the social duress we were seeing pandemic and with the election, that people were looking for a shooter, something positive, off topic and different that they could focus their attention on. So we could be that source for them when they were staying abreast on community news, to then show them like a branded content piece or a display ad that maybe spoke to them, saying like dreaming of a home office, right? This was a really engaged audience. The next thing we talked a little bit about was what the market looked like with regards to real estate pre-pandemic. And what we found was we were on very strong footing, right? We had a strong economy, interest rates were very low. And so that was really supporting kind of the momentum into what we know now. And obviously when we hit the end of February and March, that's when, at least personally, I saw the greatest impact starting to happen with how my clients and advertisers were taking in what they were hearing about the pandemic and trying to reevaluate next steps and strategy. What we saw was that there was a big drop in February. I got a little ahead of myself. I apologize. That's actually my next talking point. This slide actually speaks to when we were doing a deep dive CNA with this national builder. They were talking about how the pandemic would impact their home buyers. And they thought that they could find safety within the first-time home buyer and then the 55 plus age market. The reasoning for this is that first-time home buyer, they believed, was early enough in their career that if there was transition, they could find something similar. Also, with more companies allowing employees to work remotely, they foresaw that more and more companies would look at the overhead costs with relations to their office buildings and maybe allow this to be a more permanent thing, and also see the advantages, right, of having an open kind of grounds for attracting the best talent, because now it wasn't you had to commute or be in a certain area. Now in this environment where so many of us are working remotely, we've kind of learned how to navigate that. We've learned how to do it well. We know it can be done. And so, we kind of predict that more and more companies might move to that model or a hybrid version where you're not having to come in as often. And how does that necessarily impact real estate? It could mean that people who are in metropolitan areas decide, listen, if I only have to drive to Miami once a week, it might make a lot of sense to move to Collier County, and where home prices are a little less, and where school systems might be viewed at being better. And I'm not saying that they necessarily are, but that's kind of the thinking or rationale. And for this builder, they were definitely seeing that migration even happening from New York City to the suburbs of New Jersey with that same kind of thinking. And then with the 55 age plus, they were thinking that for these individuals that maybe, and it's funny because I've spoke to so many different people who fall in this bucket, who are reevaluating retirement, right? That in this moment of they've been on furlough, or they're working from home and they're looking at the future, and they think, now I'm kind of crunching numbers. Like, am I ready for retirement? Which I apologize. Sometimes I can get on a whole tandem, but again, that topic is one we could go down with financial advisors, right? That's like, because so many people right now are thinking along these terms. So that's another thing I take away from when I'm looking at opportunities. I'll find that there's a lot of congruency, right? Of like data points that speak to one industry that could really help you later on with another industry, right? It's a different spin on it, but equally as important. So they were looking at that 55 age plus because they were thinking that group also would be a little bit safer from a new home purchase, from employment dwindling. Also, we have found, and I have seen this with my own advertisers, that a lot of people, after sheltering in place in our cold northern states, decided, I can't do this anymore. If I'm going to shelter in place, I need to come to Florida, or I need to go to, a warmer state where at least I can ride my bike, or I'm not going to be, because I'm from Indiana, like I remember the months spent in the basement, especially if there was a snowstorm. So there are a lot of people who thought, we winter down in Florida. I'm seeing friends there that I have a second home. I'm going to sell my home up north and I'm moving to Florida full time. And so they also were seeing that group in that 55 plus and saw an opportunity there. So again, I told you earlier, I kind of jumped ahead here. In February, we really saw an impact of mortgage applications just pretty much stop. Like everyone's like, okay, wait, what is happening? What's happening with the market? Because we had found out that, the cases were starting to come to our country, right? Or we knew more about it rather. And then not surprisingly, we saw a major drop in listings because people were trying to make their home environment as safe as possible and not have additional exposure to others. Then we saw that the buying cycle really for housing kind of started to shift. In the past, it was a much longer cycle in terms of research, but because of the pandemic, it became top of mind. And it showed, and I've heard people, even my client here, talk about how it almost started to model a car buying experience. And by that, I mean, usually when you're shopping for a car, you'll have several cars in mind. You'll look at them online, right? The different features virtually. And then when you get to the lot, you pretty much have made your decision. I mean, based on the test drive. We actually started to see that home buying started to feel a lot like that. And the builders that I have spoken to, and actually agents, have talked about record numbers in June. So there was this pent-up pressure at home that we kind of talked about in our own consumer journey of like, geez, I need a home office, or like, you know, we never really thought that pool was that important, but now that the kids have been home since spring break, it's important, right? So people really started to look at real estate. So now what? About 2/3 of our Zillow survey respondents said that they're working from a room that's not dedicated to a home office. So again, like I said, data points sometimes will give us other avenues to really pursue prospects. This to me says the home furnishing industry is very robust and an opportunity for people who initially were working at their kitchen table and thinking this was a couple months out, that now it might look like a year out. Now I need a designated office space. I need a desk. I need, you know, to have better lighting for these meetings that we're doing virtually, right? So 2/3 said that they would consider moving if working from home at least a few days a week in the future. So very much my stat of how we're going to see markets shift, right? And how we open up that messaging to those prospective targets. And then listings mentioning a home office have jumped about 10% year over year. And then search on new construction listings are up 73% year over year. And I joke and I say this because, again, this is me. I've been spending a lot of time on HGTV, and some of us have decided that maybe the lift of what we would need to do would be too extensive, and the best solution is just buying a new home. Interestingly, in that deck, and I didn't include it in this one, but we talked a lot about how people who purchase a new home are more willing to kind of squeeze their budget higher than someone buying an existing home, primarily because they know that they're not going to have to be replacing things, and because of the all-time low interest rates. So here we have, again, an opportunity to potentially do a branded content article of like, what is the cost advantage of buying new versus an existing home, or something to get that top of mind, because these are things that our clients our prospects are thinking about. So what do we do with this data? We really show, when we bring data to the equation and do deep CNA, that we are not just a vendor. And I think that's like what we always want to be, is a partner. And so when we can come to them with ideation and like, hey, this is what I'm hearing you say, and this is what the data is saying, and these are what I believe are your next steps to shift market share and really turn this time of turmoil or uncertainty to really come out ahead of everybody. So what we know is that you need to have a reemergence marketing strategy that talks about what you are doing to keep prospects safe. We know that we need to make virtual tours very accessible and user-friendly. And then how we message how you're different, right, in this space really is speaking to these individuals who are safety-minded or potentially, you know, in the market now to pull the trigger on a new home.
All right, thank you, Tracy. Any questions for Tracy? I'll play. Quick question for you, Tracy. So did any of the data, or will any of the data that you found be used in any content or branded content that you're thinking about leveraging with the client?
So we are still putting together budgets. Yes, I believe it very much will. This client is a national builder, so it'll variate depending on the market that we go into. But yes, we already talked about that. For example, when we talked about buying new versus buying and the power of that buy in a low interest environment.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Tracy. We will capture any other questions that may come along, but we are going to move it along to our final panelist here, Sammy Papper. Sammy started his company Wormhole in order to connect organizations with their businesses and consuming audiences in unique and fast-paced ways by leveraging new technology. Sammy has also been an independent contractor and speaks on behalf of Pulse Research for the past 17 years. Sammy, take it away. You're on mute, Sammy.
I'm just clicking it. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you, FNAME, the Florida Press, and the sponsors and fellow panelists. Thanks for queuing me up. And I think, Devin, you're driving. Do you want to pull up the screen or? Thank you. Or yeah, super. So let's go to the next slide because that's just the title slide. As Patrick pointed out, I've been a proud partner of Pulse Research. I've represented them for 17 years, even back when I was at Belden Associates, for those who remember those names. And one of our clients calls these times business as unusual. So that's what I lead with. It's clearly business as unusual times. And what Pulse did, for those who don't know Pulse, is a 35-year-old research company based in Portland, Oregon. We decided to launch a COVID survey on March 12th. And by launching a survey, what we meant is we had our newspaper partners. We have about 500 across North America. We have press associations. We have national and regional alliances, all encourage members to promote. So we are asking shopping questions. So literally the question in a category would read, do you or anyone in your household intend to shop for furniture? 200 categories we asked about during the first wave. We are in the second wave of survey right now, and we've enhanced the number of questions to almost 500 questions. So if you'll click, Devin, there's a couple of scroll-ins there. I believe this is simply the best time ever to be prospecting, to helping customers. Both of my great panelists have touched on this. Times are so uncertain. It's just so unprecedented. If you come to a client or a prospect with information about their business, you will rock. It is really a glorious time to make a difference. And so I hope everyone on this call capitalizes upon this. And if you'll click again, Devin. Businesses don't know what's happening. These are uncertain times. But if you can come to them with information about how many shoppers you reach and you can deliver, they will be interested. Next slide. So just to summarize what the first wave did, we got an over 29,000 sample in this first wave of COVID shopping. We have 25 or so clients who have their own data. In the Florida sample itself, we have well over 1,400, 18 states with individual data. And for those who didn't, we sliced into regions. You'll see there's about 10 regions. When you have a sample of such a size, you can do all sorts of things with it. So we have all sorts of businesses to subsets. The final report is long. There are 133 questions. 100 of them are the shopping intent questions, but we also ask demographics and lifestyles and digital behaviors, not traffic information, but what channels do you search for when you are shopping for a house, as an example. So next slide, please. So what makes more sense? I've been a partner to the industry for 35 plus years, and for a very long time, we were able to get away with talking about the packages we delivered, about our rates, but product and pricing simply does not work any longer. You guys on this call, my fellow panelists, you live this. But what really makes a difference if you're talking about the value you present. So the second quote, there are, for example, 2,800 households who are going to buy the goods and services that drive your business. Would you like to know more? What would you like to say to them? What would you like to communicate? Wouldn't it be great to activate that audience? That is a much more meaningful conversation. So that's what you can do when you have shopping intelligence data to talk about. Next slide. So I have a baker's dozen worth of ideas here, actually just a dozen actually. So these are ideas that our clients or we think you can do with the shopping data. So first and foremost, because we don't know how long these times are going to last. If you can go to a business and say, I know how many households are going to shop for the goods and services that drive your business, that ring your cash register or move your point of sale system in the next 3 months, you will be able to get a conversation started. So you can provide clarity in a time of uncertainty. I can't imagine anything more powerful if I'm a seller when I'm talking to a prospect or a business. Next. It is easy to start the conversation. It is easy to begin a needs assessment. You can do this virtually by sending them just a snippet of information. Say, I'd like 5 minutes of your time at 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, and you'll get it. So it is really easy to start the conversation. Item next. The customer, we go to business, we go to market with thousands of different metrics, and we should have those metrics. But at the end of the day, what a business, whether it's a service business, a tattoo parlor, a funeral home, or a restaurant, what they really want to know, if I invest with local media, how many households are going to buy the stuff I sell? It is nothing fancier than that. So these are customer-centric terms. It's what's in it for them. Shopping data rings their bell in every way you can imagine. Next. Add-on solutions. So I'll just use an easy example. If I have a great print customer and I know what the shopping intent is for carpeting, I can say, listen, we know how many households use our web or mobile products, and we multiply the percentage of the households' time that are intended to shop for carpeting, then it's easy to say, don't you want to capture, don't you want to activate, don't you want to communicate to the households we reach digitally without our print edition? And the advertiser says, yes, if you can, especially if you can tell them how much they're going to spend, and if you have real shopping data, you can do that. So indeed, it's easy to talk about additional solutions. Item next. I just touched on this one, but to quantify the size and the audience, almost every client we have has a main sheet. They got a nice suite of digital solutions, but they may have an agricultural product. They may have a military pub. They may have a lineup of special sections. Lord knows we have way too many special sections most of the time, right? So it's really, really easy to quantify any of these audience if you know the percentage of the households who intend to. In this next wave, as I mentioned, we're going to have 500 categories of shopping that we can talk about. So next. When you go into a business and you know about their business, you're talking about ways they can grow or what they should be promoting to grow and get more of that particular type of business. You are no longer a seller, you're a consultant helping them achieve their goals. So shopping data allows you to do that. It's just a beautiful way to twist and help them. So item next. Not in all cases, but in almost all cases, and I say 99+% of the time, if you have shopping data, any data by the way, but shopping data, you will be different from any other competitor in your community. There are only a couple of sources of shopping data. Again, Pulse has got by far and away the largest. The only other source I can think of has 20 or 30 categories of shopping, and it's asked over 6 to 12 months. Our shopping data, current COVID shopping data, is over the next 3 months. So again, you are able to provide clarity in a time of uncertainty. So if you can say, no one else has this, you are immediately more valuable than you were before you walked into that advertiser. Item next. It turns out that during COVID times, it differs by state or region a little bit, but there are indeed about 50 categories who actually spend more shopping now than during normal times. So clearly from a prospecting standpoint, for where to allocate your time, you're in a great position to say, gee whiz, Mr. Target category, there is more spending now, therefore, hopefully there are more marketing dollars now. yeah, let's talk to them. And obviously you allocate your sales resources against those categories now. You may do very well against them, but in every case, you're probably going to be smarter about who you pursue. Item next. Said it before, I say it again, this is the perfect time to be prospecting. I'll strike an average here. The average newspaper in the United States of America penetrates somewhere between 1% and 5% of the businesses in their community. And fantastic, way to go, well done. But that means somewhere between 95 and 90% of the businesses do not have a relationship with you. So if you have shopping data against 500 categories of shopping, you can be a prospecting genius. So it is a perfect time to be calling on the businesses with this data to establish a relationship and build a bigger and stronger advertising base. Item next. When you know how many households you reach are going to buy a specific goods and service, it's really easy to talk about the campaign you're proposing. So we're proposing a 52-week campaign. It's a $20,000 campaign, but we reach 15 or 18,000 households who are going to buy the goods and services. Can you get 5 or 10 or 20 of them? Sometimes the dynamic is that compelling that you only need a few to more than pay for a very nice order. So it's really easy to demonstrate ROI when you know shopping and how many dollars are spent against those shopping categories. Item next. I said it, I mentioned earlier, literally when we deliver findings to a newspaper, to a good client, we say, you are more valuable today than you were yesterday. And item next, we have the 12th item, and this is a couple of examples. When you know how many households are going to buy the goods and services that are important to the prospect or the advertiser, you're able to publish this information with these lead gen ads. The one at the bottom is actually running in a client in New York right now. So literally that's a strip ad at the bottom of page 1. They run it once a week. Sometimes it's insurance, sometimes it's real estate, sometimes it's different. But literally what happens? Two things are very good that happen. First of all, the phone rings or an email gets clicked and the ad director assigns that insurance agent who has qualified himself or herself because they've asked for more information. They're a qualified lead. And even if that doesn't happen, when you call on an insurance agent, he or she will say, oh yeah, I saw that ad on page 1. I wondered what that was all about. So it greases the skids of the sales call. And then enough about me talking. Let me tell you in the next slide what a handful of clients have said. So literally one of our favorite terms is we use data, we use the shopping data as the tip of the spear. Every time we go out, we mention how many households are going to buy whatever, every single time we go out. And here are 4 brief success stories. So you guys can read these as fast as I can speak them, probably twice as fast, but thanks to the shopping data and the repair cold call secured me more time, a better needs analysis, and a more comprehensive conversation. This cold call turned into a sale very quickly. Item next. Since we use the shopping data, I've seen tremendous benefit. This was an ad director, a small daily in New York, same one that has those strip ads. We just opened the conversation to solution sales versus the products and pricing which we traditionally sold. And next quote. I heard this quote earlier, the VBR is the valid business reason. Using this shopping data gives us a valid business reason to call every single time. It's new and important information. It gets the attention of the customer vis-a-vis my competitors. Armed with this intelligence, it proves that I know and care about the business. I've got power, and it's a great prospecting solution. So indeed, again and again and again, we see quotes of this nature. And then item last, this was a specific combination offer, and literally, as I talked about in print, adding on digital, this newspaper said, why don't you buy our sister publication because you reach X number of households, we can reach X number of households who will drive your POS, and it was a $9,400 sale. So there are just 4 examples that really work for day-to-day operators. And with that, I wrap things up. I knew I was going to be pressed for time, but I think we are in good shape. At least if my boss Patrick says we're in good shape, I'll respond to any questions from the group or from the team.
Yeah, I'll just say it. Thank you, Sammy. And any questions for Sammy? One quick one for you, Sammy. You mentioned prospecting a lot with the platform. I was just curious if it ties into anyone's CRM when using the platform, like Salesforce or
Sure.
anything like that.
Sure. So the short answer is no. The APIs have not been built yet. It turns out Pulse, God love them, we're well down that path, but the silly thing called COVID started in February. So that was been put on the back seat so we could capture that 29,000 sample. My suspicion is APIs will be back off the back burner at the end of this year, early next year. And once you've built one, to whether it be Salesforce or Brainworks or Dynamics, it's pretty easy to build. So yes, I expect integration to a functional CRM late this year or early next year.
Great, thanks. We did have one question pop up here, Sammy. Can you give an example of how you use the shopping data to start the conversation?
So sure I can. So I mentioned the furniture example. I can tell you in normal times, the furniture shopping is between 16 and 20% of the households. During COVID times, it's between 9 and 10%. So literally, I'll just make up an example. If I'm a 10,000 circulation daily, and I know that 10% of the households intend to shop at furniture, I would literally call or email or bang on a door of the furniture store, whichever phase is appropriate in the state you are in. And I'd say to that furniture store, we reach 1,000 households who intend to shop for furniture. Would you like to talk to them? Would you like to tell them what your hours are that you can do pickup? Or would you like to say you got the best delivery or the best financing or the largest selection of recliners? Would you like to talk to them? And the advertiser says, wait a second. I mean, literally, I've had this happen. You know how many households are going to buy the goods and services that I sell? And I say, yes, sir, I do. Tell me more. I mean, when I can have that conversation and tell them how many households I reach, local media partner, they are interested. And there are times I said, oh my gosh, Sammy, I have been selling furniture for 30 years and I've never had a seller tell me how many households are going to buy my stuff. Thank you. So it's a fantastic way to start the conversation. You're talking about them and their sales. It's easy to start the conversation.
Awesome, Sammy. Thank you so much. And I will say that it's pretty powerful when the audience tells you exactly what they're planning on purchasing, right? So thank you so much. Great job. And I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists today. This is an outstanding session. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, FNAME, and to our other sponsors, Blue Toad, Preferred Marketing Solutions, and Intersect Media. We hope you all found value in our session today, and we always look forward to hearing feedback. So please reach out and let us know for future VIP roundtables what we can do to better ourselves here. We look forward to seeing you again next Thursday, August 27th, for our next VIP roundtable in this series. That discussion will be on helping our business partners tell their unique and important story, and it will be with Mike Senerani. Thank you all again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.